Good evening and welcome. Thank you, delegates and panelists, for joining the session before time. And we welcome you to an interactive power talk on One Nation, One Grid. The present stand. My colleague Ms. Harcha is here with us today to introduce the panelists and to moderate the session. So, delegates, let's sit back and enjoy this special interactive session. I welcome Ms. Harcha.
Thank you. As of June 30, 2022, India's national electric grid installed 403.759 gigawatts. Prime Minister Narendra Modi issued the One Sun, One World, One Grid declaration to improve grid efficiency and connectivity during COP26 Climate Meeting in Glasgow. Interconnected green grids can be transformative with OSOWOG allowing all nations to prevent disastrous climate change. This will contribute to the construction of global grid and transmission of sustainable energy worldwide. It also attempts to reduce storage requirements and improve the economics of solar system. Our today's Power Talk will focus on One Nation, One Grid, the present stand, where we will access programs that attract effective investments in renewable energy sources using technology, finance, and skills. Further, we will evaluate how renewable energy sources like solar, rooftop can contribute to efficient energy and grid management. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor and a privilege for me to introduce you our today's distinguished speakers, Mr. Sirish S. Garud, Director, Renewable Energy Technology, the Energy Resources Institute, Mr. Raghavendra Mirji, Senior Vice President and Head of Electrical and Electronics Division at Godrej and Boyce Manufacturing Company, Mr. Pratik Saxena, Founder and CEO of Hyg Energy.
Your submission was on RE integrated power grids and its potential future. So my question to you is, you also mentioned about the per capita consumption. So now that is increasing in India and it is expected to increase even more with its energy producing capacity. So how are the power utilities and grid integrators prepping up to address this increase?
Well, I think you asked a very pertinent question. So now I would like to just give you a thing how India is actually looking at the entire growth aspect of the power sector. So it's actually boils down to the power sector. So yes, the per capita consumption today is still at about 1,400 around that kilowatt per person. And then where the world average is roughly about 4,500. So now the drivers that we are looking at, be it urbanization that is taking place in a very rapid way. You are seeing the metros, the connectivity, the commercial segments, the malls, the lifestyle of the average Indians definitely is going up. Now with India are done with on the last mile connectivity, connecting all villages, in their network, the consumption is going to come from them as well. And the third industries, is growing because of the Atmanirbhar Bharat aspect, Made in India aspect. Look at defense sectors that is opening up, the export potentials that we talked about. So industry is also going to come up, and all these things will actually put a huge pressure on the electricity consumption. So it has to happen and it has to grow. Now, how utilities are gearing up? The utilities are gearing up, first of all, they have to put up the infrastructure, especially on the transmission side. Now, if I have to bring statistics on the traditional, we are lagging traditionally on the investments, if you compare between generation and transmission. So transmission, the budgeting is always lower or the expenditure is always the lower. And if you see from the transformation capacity, if I have to put a thumb rule to evacuate 1 megawatt of power, and roughly you would be needing about 2.3 to 2.5 MVA capacity of a transformation. The around 5 to 6 MVA kind of a transformation. Today we are only at about 2.3 and 2.4. So there is no other way but to come up with a complete enhanced infrastructure plan to upgrade the transmission system in India. So that means the transmission lines has to happen, the upgradation of the distribution network has to happen, because Wherever the transformer capacities were low, that has to be upgraded. The AT&T losses has to come down. So the revamped distribution system are also putting up a huge infrastructure process. The national infrastructure pipeline also has announced a huge investment plan for power segment. So the overall, whether it is central government or the state utilities, they are geared up for the next 5 years to invest, improving and enhancing the transmission network, including the substations as well as the lines and the microgrids that I talked about, in a big way. So that's how it will address, that's how it will take care of the per capita consumption that is going to go up in the near future.
Thank you so much, Mr. Miji, for addressing that. Mr. Shirish, you finally mentioned about reducing emissions. So when we talk about emissions and clean energy targets, it is said that we need to increase our RE capacities by 5-fold to 50 gigawatts per year by 2030. So this further emphasizes on adding capacities for grid and energy storage. Can you tell us where do we exactly stand today in terms of the same?
As regards 500 gigawatt of clean energy target, currently if you include hydro and nuclear, which is very little in India right now, we are somewhere around 200 gigawatt clean energy capacity, which is either installed or which is under installation at different phases of projects commissioning or project tendering states. So we are roughly around 50% of it, less than 50%, maybe 40%. So but so far we have taken about 20 odd years to reach this stage, or even I will go back from the for 75 years we have been working on hydro and other. And in future, of course, it will be more focused on solar, wind, and to certain extent on biomass or bioenergy, because government is promoting bioenergy also in a big way. We have just today launched the new program for bioenergy. So one is looking at, I think it is reasonably optimistic that we will be able to achieve that kind of target. Now the question is investments coming into it and new technologies coming into it, and as mentioned rightly by Raghavendra ji, that we need to have a good transmission and distribution infrastructure augmented to handle these capacities. And it can also have the different design concepts as mentioned by our next speaker, Mr. Pratik, maybe microgrid kind of combinations and others. So it is going to be a very, very dynamic phase of Indian power sector, where all, and as mentioned rightly by Mr. Mirji, that consumer has to be a very active component of this entire value chain, because consumer are now we are very passive. We just get electricity and we pay bills. We don't worry about anything on the grid. But in future, you will have time of the day tariff or peak time tariff, or so distribution companies will be, or your metering system will be interacting with you automatically through softwares that it's good time to maybe consume electricity because tariffs will be low, or not so good to consume electricity because tariffs are high, and so on and so forth. So one is going to go. So consumer has to be an active partner of this mechanism, and that's very rightly brought out by Raghavendra ji.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shirish, for addressing that. Mr. Pratik, coming to you, you have been an expert in the rooftop solar segment. My question to you is, how do you evaluate the implementation of the government's grid-connected rooftop solar program, where DISCOMs have a key role to play?
This is a very, very valid question. This is one of the challenges which not only we are facing in India with the DISCOMs, but it's a global problem. Where DISCOMs are struggling to promote rooftop solar. So, for example, when we were implementing this project with Indian Oil Corporation, we realized that there are net metering programs in bits and pieces across India, but then these are not very attractive net metering programs. So the challenges, I'll name few. One of the challenge was in one of the net metering program run by a state, was at a price which was wholesale price of electricity, whereas the customer was paying the retail price. So, it was not effective investment for the rooftop owner or the customer. So that was one. The second was we faced in one of our project was the DISCOM wanted us to have an inverter which was 80% of the total solar capacity. Now, again, it's a waste of, the investment. You are not effectively using your total solar generation. So there is, I have not yet, I'm happy to get corrected. I've not seen an effective net metering program so far. And it's mainly because the challenges which I mentioned is DISCOMs are not able to recover their return on investment if there are rooftop solars. One thing which I'm finding very encouraging is in a state of Punjab, where we are again doing a project with Guru Nanak Dev Engineering College. We are trying to use there is a more than net metering. There is a policy which is called for captive power. So, the example here is a campus, and campus has got 5 buildings with total solar about 1 meg. But then, hostels do not have solar. The admin building has got the solar. So what PSPL has done is they have given a very attractive net metering program for Guru Nanak Dev Engineering College, and this is in the right direction. But then it's not sustainable. So if you get into the weeds of the program, then PSPL would be losing money on this, and then that's the reason why I said this is not sustainable. So there has to be a play from the DISCOM, not only for promoting rooftop solar, but also there has to be a play for DISCOM to be a contributor in rooftop solar. And what I'm promoting here is DISCOMs should be allowed to own community-sized batteries. So instead of a rooftop owner owning their own individual batteries, it should be a DISCOM which should be owning within the local community. They should be doing power trading, not energy trading, which will make it more effective. So, for example, I think Shiriji spoke about green energy tariff. So I'm not sure if I'm participant of a green energy tariff, but I'm actually getting green energy, as a supply, because it's so very difficult. We are not tracking it. So in fact, there was a report from UN that, the people who are claiming carbon credits for green energy, it's almost inflated by 3 times, which is real. Because, there is no real tracking of green energy. And that's where we are promoting that if a DISCOM owns a battery and we are tracking it on a real-time basis as a power is what you are generating at any instance. So if 10:01 a.m., if 1 unit of electricity is generated and it is tracked on where it is being consumed at that very instance, with the smart meter now it is possible, or there is technology which makes it possible, then you are ensuring that green energy is really being offset for carbon emission applications. And that's what we are promoting. Now, coming back to the why utilities should own batteries. So not only it would ensure that, the communities are going net zero, but also it would ensure that there is a participation from the utility. So when I spoke about utilities are eating away, or, they are losing on their top line. So what it means is, if I am a 10 kilowatt customer for a utility and I'm putting a rooftop solar during the daytime, so basically I'm using my own generation. So although there is a distribution system which is available for a customer for 10 kilowatt, but because they are generating say 5 kilowatt during the daytime or 6 kilowatt during the daytime, they become a 4 kilowatt customer. Not only they become a 4 kilowatt customer, but then during the night time, they are using the grid for their own consumption. So then it becomes very, very uneconomical for DISCOMs to participate. What we are proposing, power trading, is where the unit of that electricity goes, excess, whatever is not being consumed by the customer, goes to the battery, and then utility bills that excess to the customers in the community at the prevalent price. We are not even asking or suggesting that it should be at a green power tariff. It should be same regulated price at which utilities are. So that way they are able to recover some of the costs. Now, what is the economics here? The economics is Utilities have to pay for the wholesale purchase of the electricity. They have to pay for the transmission. Then there are huge transmission losses, which they have to even pay. So that is a deferred cost, which creates a sort of savings or benefit, which can be shared between the utility and the solar owner, and which will create a community net metering type of a program. But lastly, what utilities are liking about this whole program is, because of the battery, they create a local resiliency. And it I think Mr. Raghavendra spoke about a demand response program. So it also adds to that benefits of demand response. So that's what we are promoting, that local solar power trading, have a participation from the utilities, and make it more economical and win-win for all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pratik. Of course, the responsibilities and the benefits should be shared by both utilities and the solar generation companies. Thank you for giving us an overview on rooftop solar installations for efficient grid management. Today's submissions were very optimistic about having a renewable energy grid integrated systems for the future. We want to take this discussion forward, but it's time for the closing of today's Power Talk. I request Ms. Harcha to take this forward for closing statement.
Thank you, panelists, for sharing your valuable thought on One Nation, One Grid, the present stand. We hope you all have enjoyed the session. Before wrapping up the session, we thank our distinguished panelists, Mr. Shirish Karur, Mr. Raghavendra Mirji, and Pratik Saxena. I would also like to thank Ms. Megha Iyer and our editor, Mr. Prasad Nair, for taking this initiative. You can follow us on social media pages to get our more updates from EPR magazine. Also, our application is available on Google Play, App Store for enhanced reading. With this, we would like to announce the closing of today's session. I request you all stay tuned for more such sessions. Thank you.